Lovely to see you. I am Mayor Megan. Welcome to Culver City and our speaker series. It's so exciting for the city to be hosting these conversations. We were just going to do a small series to kind of get the community conversation started about our general plan. Our general plan is, hasn't been updated since I was born for many sections of it. And it's an incredibly important document because it is the constitution for development in our city. And it's only going to be successful when we are all a part of it. And so it's fantastic to have you here, to have your ears, to have your voices, and to have our speaker, Gerhard Mayer, here this evening. Let's give him a big hand. And I'm going to read from his bio to introduce him. He is the principal at Helms Design. He's an architect and urbanist embracing a paradigm shift towards the walkable, multimodal, equitable, sustainable, high-quality urban living of our future. Right? He's worked on several continents. He's done amazing, outstanding work in design and architecture. And I got to know him in the context of thinking about how to make Culver City a model city. How can we think about our planning? How can we take the best ideas from other countries and localize them and make them pertinent to who we are in our fantastic city? And so I've gotten really excited talking to him. I know he's going to inspire all of us here tonight, and it's just a joy to welcome you and to welcome him. I have one little piece of housekeeping, which is if you drove here, we have a hard stop of 9 p.m. If, on the other hand, you biked or walked or took the bus, you can do what you want. There's an after party. No, there's not an after party, but you don't have the same constraints. I want to give a shout out to our fantastic staff in advanced planning. Thank you to our staff for organizing this series. I recognize we have here tonight members of our General Plan Advisory Committee, so thank you for stepping up in this position to be thinking about our future and giving us your ideas. Thank you so much.
I'm Mike here, I guess you can hear me all. So the last meeting about urban change that I attended was given by a person called Gerhard Mayer. I'm not sure that you know who he is. He leads an organization called Strong Council. Very good organization. And one thing he said is that urban change is usually something people expect other people to do elsewhere so they can go on living their own lives. It's not what this group is, right? We're all here to make positive changes for ourselves and everybody else. By the way, there's an acronym for that kind of behavior. It's called SABI, Some Other Boy's Backyard. It's a British acronym that's in the British Urban Dictionary. But of course, we are usually in a NIMBY-YIMBY dialogue here. Urban change puts the fear of God apparently into everybody. Lots of people come out and have something for or against it. And typically the dialogue looks something like that, if that thing ever works. There's a fear of density. And the fear of density to me means that the delay, I could also do it from here. The fear of density usually means that there are too many cars in everybody's way. A little while ago, Donald Trump gave a presentation and he said that if people arrive without a car, he thinks they will scarcely be noticed. But if they come with a car, everybody is against them because our streets can't handle any more cars. Nobody wants these ugly, boxy buildings that we see all over So then the argument counter to that is it's so expensive to build here, and homes are already so expensive, right? The rent is already so damn high. And of course that leads to gentrification, and then somebody's screaming, stop the war on cars because we have to drive, that's the only way to get around, and then somebody else says, but there isn't enough transit, and there isn't enough, if the streets are not safe to move on your scooters and on your bikes, and there isn't enough space for walking even. And we're only building for the very rich, and of course that means escalating housing costs, and that means displacements. And that's how the conversations always run down. They're always in the same frame of dialogue. And the response to that usually is that we say no to overdevelopment. We call that overdevelopment. Just say no, don't do anything. Well, this is really annoying. I think it would pay, it's worthwhile to look at what our development really looks like typically. So this is a typical LA residential development. It's huge. It's about, maxes out at 85 stories tall. It's usually about 5 stories of wood construction on 2 or 3 stories of concrete construction. The 2 or 3 stories of concrete at the bottom hold all the cars. So it's a giant parking garage. And these projects have sort of like between 200 and 700 apartments in them. I mean, they're giant, right? And we have accepted that that is the way we build our cities. There's another model, and the other model, of course, is this. Some people advocate for we got to build tall, and we want to build high-rise. Well, high-rise, I must admit, has a little more appeal. I never dreamt of moving to a big city and living in one of those 5/2 apartment blocks, but I lived in the city when I was younger, and the first apartment I ever rented was in a high-rise. And I lived there for a half a year, and then I moved to a row house in Brooklyn, and I was much happier there. But, so this is an example that many people sort of like think is inevitable in Los Angeles. We have to build tall, we have to like accommodate all the people. It means we have to build high rises, and we have to get rid of all the other cities on earth that built this stuff. Of course, the way this manifests in Los Angeles is we force everybody to have very high parking ratios, which means you need to build a lot of parking, build a lot of apartments. So in LA, these buildings have a podium at the bottom. In that podium are all the cars, and the people get to live on top of it. Now the height of that podium is the height of most other cities that you know across the world. Paris, Berlin, Munich, Vienna, and they have humans, actual humans living in those first 6 stories. We don't have any humans in there. It's only cars. We live on top of all of us, the cars. So the question is this really what we have to expect in Los Angeles? Is this the emerging Los Angeles? And that brings up a question, what is a city? And I can only give you my own personal interpretation of what a city is. For me, a city starts with a common open space, a park, a large park usually. If you think about the cities that we know in this country, Boston, the Boston Common, New York, Central Park, Brooklyn, Prospect Park. You go to international cities, London has a lot of parks. And Vienna has grown a lot of parks. Berlin has the Zoo Garden, a lot of parks. Parks are really important if you actually want to create quality of housing, not just numbers. If you actually want to create a quality life in a city, you need to give people access to open space. I used to live in Hong Kong for a short time, and they barely have any open space in the city at all. And on the weekends, all the maids come out and set up little blankets on the sidewalks, and that's the open space that we get to enjoy because the city doesn't have any. I don't think that's the life that we should aspire to. And then once you have that open space, then that is usually surrounded by a whole bunch of different building typologies. And they range from single houses, they range from duplexes, triplexes, big house with a couple of apartments, or row houses, a very important building type that we don't have at all in Southern California. There's a separate discussion why we don't have that. Stacked row houses, they usually have to be in England, and in Canada, small apartment buildings, which we used to have a lot. Sometimes they're called dingpads, but we have sort of like 3 bangers, 4 bangers, along Washington Place, Washington Boulevard. Very nice housing development. Then comes low-rise apartments, mid-rise, and then comes the apartments over commercial, 5/2s, and the high-rise apartments. So if you ask people, what do they actually like to live in? Usually, this is not a scientific survey, but usually people fall into these building types. They find those acceptable. Usually with a heavy focus on the middle of that range. This is called, that's not a term, but it's the missing middle. these building types you see all around. I mean, Culver City has those building types. You know, the Echo Park has those building types. Silver Lake, you know, many weekends, friends and I, we walk around in those, and I always am complaining that I always point out nice buildings that we see, and then I say, you can't build this anymore, it's illegal. We have made most of these buildings illegal today. So here is what LA builds, mostly. We have built a lot of small single-family subdivisions, and we have eliminated everything that you still see in green, just about. There are some small ways they're coming back, as sort of like smaller subdivisions, and occasionally on the west side there's some smaller apartment buildings. But it's not totally non-existent, but it is barely existing. It's on life support. But then we build a whole lot of apartments for commercial and high-rise apartments. And of course those projects are huge. They require a large investment. That investment is usually not made locally. Those are like international REITs that are investing, and they usually make 12 to 15% profits on the stock market. So why should our cities be built by people who do not live locally, who make money elsewhere? Shouldn't the city be built by locals, for locals? So why don't we make that possible? Thank you, it gets worse though. What if we actually could build a city people would like? And of course we have a lot of examples for that, and it would be really nice if my would go. You typically like college towns. College towns are universally accepted, right? I mean, you go to Bloomington in Indiana, or you go to Ann Arbor in Michigan, or you go to San Luis Obispo. You know, college towns are sort of quaint, they're human scale, you can walk around. It's not too dense, you know, you sort of like drive around even, and people like that. I understand. We like older U.S. cities, you know, this is Boston in this case. You know, older U.S. cities seem to still function on urban, human scale. The buildings are smaller, the streets are not that wide, sometimes they clear out all the traffic, and they keep the streets open for sort of like pedestrian festivities. And of course we like old cities in Europe, and I apologize in advance that this is a more Europe-centric presentation, because that's where I'm from, and I can read their newspapers, and I can find many photos from there. From what I understand, there's a similar case to be made for many Asian cities in a similar way, but I can't read, I tried, I can't read the newspapers, I can't find the right images for that, but I think it's applicable there as well. So we looked at the urban fabric in other countries, and we see still small buildings, and we still see walkable streets, and we see a lot of bicycles and not that many cars. Or we see sort of really quaint small towns. This is Belgium, you know, walkable streets, tiny buildings which we can't figure out how we can even build that or efficiently run, because only Rick Caruso built something like that here, and they could pretend that they're small buildings. But they seem to be doing quite well with this. When they have plazas, you know, the plazas are not parking lots. The plazas are full with people. They set up outdoor dining. This is Prague. You know, everybody goes there and enjoys life there. This is a photo from my hometown, Vienna. Vienna throws once a year probably the largest New Year's Eve party on earth, and they shut the whole city down. And millions of people come there, and they teach you ballroom dancing in the middle of the street. Now, that is all nice and quaint, but can we even imagine anything in California function like that? And why not? Why shouldn't we have the right to do the same thing? This is Oslo. Oslo is a very advanced city these days. They are in the process of eliminating all cars from the downtown. They're pretty far along with that. So very soon there will not be any cars. How do they do this? How do they get around? Not all cities are old. You know, sometimes some parts of the city are actually quite new. This is a part of Amsterdam with striking modern buildings, and you see purpose-built infrastructure, but not for cars, you know, for bikes. And people move around quite easily there. This is a shoreline in Oslo. Very nice area for people to gather. Modern buildings, so there's nothing old and quaint there. It's not just old European cities. But they're not as big as our old buildings, as our new buildings. They don't have big parking garages. How does this life function? They build amenities, but we build amenities for our large commercial projects. They build amenities for neighborhoods. This is in Denmark, Copenhagen. This is a new bar, a new spa, for a residential neighborhood. Think about that, what that means. Why do we think that amenities belong to a commercial building? Why aren't the amenities for us all living in that area? That's how we used to run our own cities. There were lots of community pools in the past in cities. And of course you see a lot of old towns that are full of pedestrian zones, and that seems to be working very well. But then you also see new towns that are full of pedestrian zones, and that is still working very well. And you see some strange constructs in the street space that we can't even relate to at all. This is a woolnerf, and you've got to ask somebody Dutch to explain what that means. But this is the largest woolnerf in Europe right now. It's a shared street that accepts people and cars all together, but the people have the right of way. So when you drive there, they drive very slowly. And the people do not necessarily park when they see a car and make room. They just meander around, and the cars, it takes them forever to get through them. This is the main shopping street in Vienna. It's actually a quite successful example. I mean, I have seen it now for 2 years, and it works. We can't even envision doing that. Then you see articles like this, Spain wants to ban cars in dozens of cities and the public's on board. Are those different people? Do they see a different life? Do they have a different genetic footprint? What makes them so different that they react that way? There's a town in northern Spain called Pontevedra that used to be a traffic flag on the left photo up until recently. They decided to get rid of all the cars downtown. So now the whole street, the whole city is basically a pedestrian city. And the city council and all the locals are so committed to that they go and printed a map how long it takes to walk from point of interest to point of interest. So this is the new map for moving around in Pontevedra. It takes you like 7 minutes to walk from one to the other, and it takes you 2 minutes to go across the corner, etc. As I said, this is not just a European phenomenon. Asia is on board with this. There's lots of pedestrian zones in Tokyo. There's some in Seoul. There's some in Hong Kong. And even our older East Coast cities, New York City, for instance, is on board with that, pushing back the car into their place. When I lived in New York City was a traffic full mess. Nowadays, that's not quite the case. They have channeled the car into some narrow. See, no, doesn't work at all. Sorry. Yeah. They have channeled the cars into some quite narrow defined lanes, and there's a lot of space given over to pedestrians. And of course we have an example here too. Santa Monica has a pedestrian zone, and I think they need to be applauded for that. So what happened? When we look back 5 decades, I'm making a comparison between Hollywood and Vienna, since I know both of the cities. So Hollywood was congested, lots of cars. There were big fancy cars. Vienna was also congested with lots of cars. They were not so fancy cars. But nevertheless, cars were everywhere. People were complaining. It was the same story as here. Fast forward 5 decades, Hollywood is still congested with cars. Vienna is a pedestrian wonderland. What happened? Change happened. And change happened at different speeds. Obviously, ours was not quite as fast as theirs. And change is hard. When you go to all these dialogue forums, where there's a discussion about urban change, various subjects come up, but they include usually that you need to look at different zoning models. You need to look at different mobility options. You need to look at different building types. We badly need different building types. We have eliminated most of the fabric that we like in our cities. We have made it illegal. We badly need different building types. We need different street designs. Who says that the Department of Transportation gets the first right of refusal for anything that happens in our streets, and everybody takes second place to that? We need definitely more transit, but that's also not that easy to create. We need more open spaces. We need to create quality places to live in our cities, not places we can endure. We need to create places we actually want to be in. We need to invite many more different people to build, so it isn't just the international REITs building our cities, but it's again locals building our cities. We need to create walkable neighborhoods. We need to reinvent, re-regulate parking. We need to recapture land from excessively wide roads and change the urban fabric altogether. It's quite daunting, right? And here is the big deal. It won't really work well until you do it all. If you do only one of those things, it's almost like a tissue rejection from a transplant, right? You have a transplant that gets put in your body, and the whole body revolts against that. So if you do only one of those things, and you try it out in your city that otherwise works on all these other parameters, it will reject it. You will create mayhem, and people will revolt. It will not work. And the saddest thing of all this, we need to help people learn how to live with that. You've all heard stories of people taking a vacation in, let's say, Europe or Japan. You know, two different families take a vacation. Family one goes there, knows how to live there. You know, they come off the airport, they come off the airplane, they go immediately to the train, and they zip into the city, and they know how to get around there. Occasionally they rent a car for a nice drive in the country, and they just have a blast. Family two expects to live a life that they live here. They get off the airport and they want to rent a car. Well, the place where you rent the car is not very convenient because they don't put it in a very convenient place. And driving out of the airport is already difficult. And where they're going, they can park. And they might not even be able to drive exactly to where they want to go because it might already be in a pedestrian zone. And life is just really difficult for them. And they come back and they say they hate it. These people are crazy. The city doesn't work. Two different groups of people, two different experiences. If we want to have the first experience, we need to tell people how to do this. Now, this is going to be a little sad, but I will be quick with it. The change of urban change has to do whether we'll actually be able to maintain a planet that will be hospitable to us or not. I mean, I can rattle off all sorts of environmental disasters. Indonesia has given up on maintaining their capital in Jakarta. They're moving it. Last 2 weeks ago, it was 150 degrees in the south of France. The French Alps, there was a snowfield that is now a lake. There are sledding images from Greenland for an annual sled race where the dogs are now going through a lake. Now it was snow again. In Spain, they had manure so hot that it self-ignited and caused a huge forest fire. There was a hailstorm in Guadalajara that created sort of like a hail avalanche, and the city was full with 3 to 6 feet of ice. Shall I go on? This is not going to get better by itself. And people around the world have realized that this is the case, and they are beginning to revolt against this. Not in this country, but in many other countries on Earth, there is constant protests against climate change. It's actually against what they think are the people who cause the climate change. They call themselves the Extinction Rebellion. They're mostly young people. Thousands of people have been arrested already in London and in the UK. This is also not going to go away. People are aware of what we're doing here. They're very articulate. You know, you can read this yourself, but they basically say that we have a short window to affect positive change, and that positive change means we need to eliminate 50% of the carbon load, or we will trigger a reaction in our climate that will basically doom us. And they say we can do it because we have done big things before. What they say in Europe is that we need to think about cathedral building. When cathedrals were built, those are massive, undertakings that happened over many generations. So when they started building the cathedral, they didn't know how to finish it, but they started anyway. And most cathedrals, completed successfully. For us, perhaps, the better analogy is the moon landing. If you watch any of those movies, they didn't know how they would get to the moon, but they decided we're going to go there and we're going to figure it out. We can do this if we put our mind to it. So don't let anybody tell you it's too hard. We can do it, and we must start today with this. And then they, of course, also say, but you don't listen to the science because you're only interested in solutions that will enable you to carry on like before. And the person who spoke this is a young Swedish woman. She's 16, and she spoke to the Houses of Parliament in England. Now, I like public speaking, but at 16, can you just imagine? I mean, a young woman, 16 years old, is traveling the world, giving us this message. We, of course, know what we need to change. That's really hard. We're driving too much. This chart on the left is a chart from the state of California that measures our carbon input and with its effect on the climate. And the state reports that we're doing very well. In almost all measurable areas, we're doing really well, except in one. And that offsets all the others. We're driving more than ever before. So if you want to go and make some positive change, you know, you can talk about cow farts and the 8% agriculture, and maybe you do something effective there, but it's not going to make a huge difference. You can talk about green blinging all the residential buildings that you can find, but it's only going to be 7% of the total carbon load. If you really want to affect change, you need to attack these 41% and these 23%. Now, it turns out there is a mathematical relationship between density and the amount of carbon that we put out into the atmosphere. This, by the way, is a chart from the World Health Organization. It's not a chart from various planning bodies, and it relates density and carbon load. And it turns out it's sort of like a hyperbolic curve, with this being the sweet spot here. And this is where you see most of the cities that we would actually like to live in. Most people actually like being in those cities. And you know, the very extreme density curve, you have, for instance, Hong Kong or Moscow, and yeah, they have very low carbon loads, but they're also really extremely dense. But where are the other cities? Well, here are the Australian cities. They're quite low density, have a slightly higher carbon load, or it's still 2 or 3 times more than, you know, most of the European cities, or like Tokyo. And then here is us. That's pretty bad, right? So, you want to tell me that, you know, we in Los Angeles use 6 to 10 times more energy than they use in those European cities. Do we have a quality of life that's 6 to 10 times better? Do we have a mobility that's 6 to 10 times better? What justifies us using that much carbon and spewing it back into the atmosphere? And what do we say to people when their country sinks under rising oceans and they say, hey, it was because of you that all this happened? Our brand, what's left of our brand to be good Americans, is going to go away really fast if we don't change. We have to change. This is bonding. Now, staying on the subject of planning, you know, so there's a different planning method between the US and between Europe. The planning method that we use here is called the scientific method. And this is just a caricature about it, but it nevertheless is a peer-reviewed, very carefully researched and evaluated, slow process. It makes a lot of sense in many fields because you want to make sure that you take out the wild gyrations, you know, between different iterations. And in many areas, this is a good method. But it's not the only method that exists. There's also a design thinking process. Design thinking process is the foundation for our most successful industries in America, the tech sector. You look at Culver City, you can go over to Apple, Google, HBO, anybody. They work on this model, all of them. This gets taught in Stanford as a science. There are books written, there are companies that do nothing but manage this. It's a rapid iteration process that generates prototypes that get better and better. It starts out with understanding the problem, defining a solution, come up with a design that actually solves it, prototype that design, test it, extrapolate what you can, learn from it, do it all over again. It's called rapid prototyping. Literally, the success of American industries is based on this. Our most successful industries do that. And of course, so one of them is a linear method, you know, the other one is rapid prototyping, leapfrogging method, and it's designed to make cities better fast. Of course, there's already a startup company up north in the tech sector that has taken this model as the basis for its business and is trying to market rapid urban prototyping, you know, as a business. And so far, they have generated sort of things like parklets and small pocket parks and stuff of that nature. But there are 2 mechanisms worldwide that use this method very successfully to attack rapid urban change. First one is called an eco-district. Who has heard of an eco-district before? Okay, Patricia. Well, an eco-district is, I think, an American organization, and it is a method to affect urban change based on 3 principles, and the 3 imperatives are equity, resilience, and climate protection. So, worthwhile principles. And this works well in cities where the actual built fabric of the city is one that we like. So if you have an older city and it just doesn't work so well, an eco-district is a perfect way to make it work perfectly. Eco-districts have been many, they're worldwide. And there was one in San Diego, there's what Capitol Hill was one in Seattle, they're all over the country. But there is an even bigger organization. That's the one that I want to focus on, and that is called an IBA. IBA is a German word. It's called International Building Exhibit. A is Ausstellung Exhibit in German. And it's basically an eco-district plus experiments in zoning, experiments in planning, modifications and inventions to urban form, new building typologies, etc. It's 120 years old. The first time around, it was used at the turn of the century in Germany. Now, this was a time when there were big projects around the world. Remember, in 1893, America did big projects. Chicago World's Fair, the Columbian World's Fair, inspired probably the Germans to try something different, to try something similar on their own. So they built a demonstration district, what a livable city could look like in the face of industrialization. Now, I want to take a little bit of a quick journey here. Up until that point, basically the whole world reacted to buildings in our environment in the same way. In an open area, they built freestanding buildings. When they built communities, they built them compact. The whole world did that. Of course, huge differences in climatic responses, differences in available building materials, cultural preferences, all that stuff. So they look very different, but nevertheless, cities, villages, compact, countryside, open building methodology. That held until World War I and the beginning of industrialization. And then this happened. The car came on board and it opened enormous economic opportunities, and it also was the catalyst for a lot of change afterward. Now, something else that happened at the same time in America was a Supreme Court case that ran through, that established the cities the right to zone different uses next to each other. So that actually became the foundation for the Euclidean zoning that we're still struggling with. A lot of people probably believe Euclidean has something to do with math. No, it doesn't. It's Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. And European intellectuals got together and addressed industrialization in our cities in their own way. Now, cities were not great places to live in at the time. Cities were congested, they were poorly run, they were corrupt, they had a lot of disease. Because of coal and industrialization, they were dirty, they were not good. So the solution for them was to just wipe out most of the cities and replace them with freestanding towers with a lot of healthy air around them. This was called CIAM, Congress Internationale Architecture Moderne. These were the leading voices of the time. And this is a photo of what they wanted to do to Paris. They basically wanted to wipe out the 13th arrondissement and replace it all with towers. Europe sort of bought into this, but it was still the intellectual elite. So America saw in this huge opportunity. Right? Our entrepreneurial spirit saw that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. In Europe, they still wanted to follow that too, and they held another IBA in Stuttgart, which is important for the other things that I'm going to tell you afterwards. That was, they hired a whole bunch of famous architects and let them build a demonstration city for all these new building technologies that everybody was talking about. So there was an architect called Mies van der Rohe, later on built the Seagram building and was active in Chicago who built this block. There was a young architect called Edouard Jean Arret, who probably became the most influential architect of the last century under the name of Le Corbusier. That building is still there, they cherish it. There were Dutch architects, Austrian architects at the time. So this was the vessel of Silo. But America went forward on this whole idea of renewing our cities. So in 1939, they built a theme park in Queens, New York. It was a World's Fair that demonstrated to the rest of the world what the American dream should look like, the new world that we all could live in. And they basically built models of cities full with towers, freestanding towers, and lots of suburbia around it, and they put everybody on this ride and roll them around. Now imagine there were no theme parks at the time. There was no TV. There was no entertainment whatsoever. There were maybe a couple of silent movies. This was a huge attraction. I mean, a huge impact. The whole world noticed. This was probably, if anybody knows what NLP is, the most successful NLP projection ever attempted, even though the science wasn't even identified at that time. And the whole world bought into it. This was the American dream. We led the world. we were definitely on the forefront and admired and looked up by everybody because this was our idea. Of course, World War II happened, and half of Europe got wiped out in the process. After the war, we passed the GI Bill, and we actually proceeded on building these cities that until then only had existed in the model. There was no interstate system before. We built it. There was no suburbs before. We built it. And we did a lot of that here in Southern California. Germans wanted to be on board too, so they had a huge hole in their city caused by a lot of bombing, Allied bombing. And in Berlin, they built another example, demonstration project with towers in the park, again with these famous architects, the most famous architects they could find at the time. It was called the Helms Design Center. One of the things that they built is this building by Le Corbusier. This is called the machine for living. This is the ultimate example of a tower in the park. This is sort of like the size of the buildings that we take for granted today. At the time, it was cool and sensational. Nobody has attempted anything that big. Nor do I think it might have been the best idea, but nevertheless, that they had it there. It sits in the middle of a green lawn in Berlin. So, US and Europe are aligned, right? In the 60s, there's the beginning evidence that this may not be the best way to go forward. So the Europeans are becoming a little woozy about that. America is bubbling down. You know, we are holding another World's Fair in Queens, New York, 1964, where we basically show off every contraption that you can ever think you to have in a kitchen that has a motor was probably demonstrated there at that World's Fair. They talked about energy will be so cheap for America that we will no longer have to put light switches in because of nuclear power. I mean, it was crazy, right? I mean, this was like a full frontal attack. We're going to keep going the way we're going. The industry was behind it because they saw a lot of money in it. Well, this whole urban renewal hit the first roadblock in New York. One of our most prolific urban renewal guys, Robert Moses in New York, hit a roadblock in the person of Jane Jacobs. Robert Moses wanted to build freeways to lower Manhattan and replace the village, the highest priced real estate in the US probably, replace it with towers. Now, he actually succeeded with towers a little bit away from there, Stuyvesant Village, and that became one of the most notorious slums ever in the United States. But Jane Jacobs won. He did not succeed. The village is still there, and it's lovely that it's there. At the same time, in Rome, people wrote the first environmental book, Club of Rome, that talks about the limited nature of our resources. We no longer could assume that we have an unlimited storehouse of resources that we can add value to and throw the refuse in an unlimited sized trash bin. They said you have to think about the sustainability of the very first book. And then the oil crisis hit in 1973, showing us that resources are really limited. And then this happened. Who knows what this is? This is 1974. They just celebrated the 35th anniversary of this. This is a river, not an oil spill. This is the Cuyahoga River. A river caught fire. The river caught fire. Not the spill on the river caught fire. The river caught fire. And I think that gave everybody a little bit of pause. Especially, once again, the Germans. They said, hey, this development model is not working for us. We've got to get out of that. And they used an EBA to decouple themselves from that. So what they were saying basically is, we have seen this. This is what you portrayed to us in 1939. This is actually an original slide from the World's Fair. But we have all these nice little cities around us. You know, this happens to be Gdansk in Poland. And we think that we like that actually much better. We think we can probably refresh that. We need to go back to building old-fashioned cities. Not old-fashioned buildings, not new urbanism. Old-fashioned cities that work on the old paradigm. And they deliberately decouple. This is where we parted ways. And we haven't found back together yet. So the Berlin EBA ran for 10, 12 years. I went to school at the time. There was almost no discussion anywhere about anything other than this. This was a giant undertaking. And its premise was the rediscovery and recovery of the traditional cities. It's a big project specifically created to correct post-war urban planning. It's hailed, this is actually on Wikipedia, the most significant urban design and architecture in the last century. I agree. 120 plus large projects were executed under that EBA. This was a deliberate attempt to get out of the groove they were in and into another groove. Here's what they did. Remember I told you about the rural and the community buildings? Well, in the rural buildings, but it's still one building in the middle of the lot. Well, the closed building topology is space surrounded by buildings, and I apologize, this is a little bit academic, but it's important. The second part, I get very practical. Usually, the open building topology lends itself to being built as a single project, financed by REITs, financed by large economic bodies. The closed building topology gets executed with multiple participants because it is still like a framework for many people to participate. They can be small builders. So this is how you get that pedestrian scale that we also like, right? You just build to small properties. It's not that hard. We can only do this when Rick Caruso does it. We have not found a way in our cities to duplicate this. But this is what everybody likes. This is what we like in the old cities. I refer to them as suburban space and urban space. Now, Giambattista Nolli was a cartographer about 200 years ago who did a very interesting plan of Rome. If you apply that same principle to suburbia, you can see the difference. It's almost like the upside down world. What you see as black rectangles here are the buildings in suburbia, surrounded by a lot of space. What you see as white rectangles here is public space, surrounded by a lot of buildings. It's the complete opposite. There's no bridge between those two. This is like an either or. So at this point, we have to talk a little bit about density because I have so many arguments on Facebook with people about high-rises. So on the left, you see New York City, Central Park, and nice towers and all. This is the Time Warner Center there. And on the right, you see Paris. Which city is denser? Paris doesn't have barely any towers at all unless you go to La Défense. Which city is denser? Well, probably it's obvious, but I'm going to show you. New York City, 10,000 people per square kilometer. Paris, 21,500 people per square kilometer. Paris is the third densest city in Europe. Densest one being Barcelona. And the second one, according to The Guardian, is somewhere in Switzerland that I've never been to. There's something denser than Paris. Density is a big issue. When you follow the open and the closed building technology through various density models, you will see the differences right away. This is our typical suburb, Moore Park, where you can go to Las Vegas, where you can go to Arizona. On the left and on the right is something very close to Culver City. This is Village Green. Village Green is a very low density closed building technology. And as it says, Village Green is buildings basically built around the Village Green. These places have similar densities. Who has the better open spaces? Who has the higher quality of life? Now, if you get a little bit denser, the best city that is a reasonable mid-level density that exists mostly with high-rises is probably Vancouver. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. On the left, you have Vancouver. On the right is Vienna. Similar densities. So you see a lot of greenery in Vancouver, but if you really look close there, you see that the greenery is a lot of greenery on parking lots and around streets. And you want the howl you ever let kids play and feel safe letting them run around. The parks in Vienna, I can guarantee you, when you're in them, you can do whatever you want. You're safe. There is no car interfering with you. And of course, when you ratchet this up into higher densities, then it gets to be ridiculous. Because in the car-based open building topology, the infrastructure for cars completely takes over and wipes out any life quality that you have ever wanted to have in that place. And if you're in a closed building topology, you might see a lot of people in the street. That's it. It's not really unpleasant to have a very crowded street to walk around in. Now here's another. The internet is full with these density comparisons because there is so much mischief being done with these density comparisons. Depending on what you measure, you can sort of prove everything you want to. But this is a block that says if the entire world lived in one city, how large would that city be if it were as dense as Paris? We've established Paris is very dense. Well, you can fit the entire planet into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. That's it. Well, if you go down, and you don't have to go through all of them, but if you were in San Francisco, it's less dense. You also need the whole state of Texas. And if you go to Houston, you need 2/3 of the United States. That's how wasteful our urban arrangements are. And this is the last way of looking at density that I'm going to bore you with. So human beings can operate in all density levels from rural to high density metro. Human beings can, not a problem. But we don't have transportation models for all density levels. There's a transportation model for automobiles that fits in the lower density models, and there's a transportation model for transit that fits into the higher densities. And they do not overlap. And they do not relate to at all. Now, we think that we can sort of like tweak our model for automobiles and get over there to the other one. We won't. There is no way to do that. You have to consciously design yourself out of one into the other. Now, it is entirely true that in this model, if you are in this suburban car-based model, you can claim that we are full. We are full. We were full decades ago. We actually have too many people because the quality of life in this model is not here, it's over here. So how do we send 30% of the population away plus all the homeless? How do we do this if we want to continue living in a nice suburb? That's not a very human proposal, right? And at the same time, you can't build transit for low densities here because if you do that, you are open to red-wing attacks that says, see, nobody takes it. It's never going to pay for itself. It's never going to work. There is no bridge. That gap needs to be designed to be crossed. I claim that the biggest challenge for us is not to build better projects and better gizmos. I think what we need to do is we need to find our own version to bridge this gap. We need to design ourselves out of one mode and back into the other. That's what the Berlin IBA did, and they had it easier because they had so many examples next door where they could study how it would work. We don't have that here. Nevertheless, that is our challenge. We need to get over there. And then over there you would feel that we are enough people. There are enough people here to really work well because you might want to have more transit, so you might want to have more density. So you might actually want to embrace more people coming into your neighborhood. Density is a very critical item. So back to Berlin. What they did is they reinvented how to act in an urban environment. They built modern building types, there were infill buildings in the urban environment. The whole world participated. This is actually an architect from Los Angeles. We participated in that. Los Angeles participated. This is Charles Moore, a very famous architect from Santa Monica. Built a very nice residential project in Tegel, outside of Berlin. The whole world was on that. The whole world studied that. This is an aerial shot of how impactful that undertaking with the IBA was. This is just one area. That many buildings were created through the IBA. And this is just maybe 10, 12 buildings out of 120 that they did. And I worked on some of them because I was living there at the time. And this again is Daniel Libeskind, an American architect, who built the Holocaust Museum. It's a beautiful building. So this is where we are right now. We stuck to our suburban development method, and they went back to an urban framework. And I don't want to really, I'm not going to stay too long on that. I'm going to show you we need more inspiring things. But this is really important because the analogy that I find for this is 30 years ago we all watched TV from cable. All of us. We had no control over when we watched what. Then somebody invented a gizmo that allowed us to watch content whenever we wanted to. That was called the VHS tape. And out of that VHS tape, we created a giant industry called Blockbuster. Blockbuster was all over the world. Fantastic, right? That's the equivalent of suburbia. It's a sugar rush, Blockbuster. Well, some people then said, hey, this wasn't so bad that we got information from the cable. Let's go back to that and just figure out how we can do it better. And they invented streaming video, Netflix. And now they are on Hulu and on Amazon Plus and all that other stuff. But another group says, no, we're going to double down on our Blockbuster. We are going to make Blockbuster better. In a suburban way, in an analogy, that's us. We are still trying to make suburbia better. We're still talking about what inspired us in 1939. Every time you hear somebody talking about an autonomous car fixing it all, please start screaming. That was the idea from 1939. This is not new. There's nothing new about it. They're trying to sell us old stuff. So I told you that Europe felt liberated with that. Let's see how they did. First large IBA after that was in the industrial area of Germany, which has sort of the size of the Midwest here. And the change was so positive and so well understood by people that the first thing they did is they built this structure to show everybody what was changing in the area. So this was publicly financed, so you could climb up there and see how much changed in your neighborhood. It was the first investment there. It was a huge IBA, it was called Insure Park. And They had a lot of industry there. The place used to be miserable. It was heavily polluted. It was dirty. You know, it was economically depressed. It was everything bad you can think about it. I mean, if you think about a real bad, depressed area, that was it. Well, they fixed it all. They fundamentally changed the economy. They created bike paths on an old network of freight rail. They created a continuous park for everyone to live in. They created new housing opportunities. The housing model that they use is the Garden City. They cleaned up with innovative methods all the industrial pollution. They invented new industries. They even invented new recreational activities so everybody had something to do when they were not working. It was a wholesale overhaul. 17 cities participated, about 120 projects. This is what now, from what used to be one of the worst areas in Europe, it's now one of the highest quality residential areas that exists. Other cities, of course, saw that, so a little bit later, an East German mining region had another EBA. Basically, they wanted to define the landscape of a rural Eastern German mining region. In 22 to 2010, the entire state of Saxony got on board. Now, understand that people travel around and learn all the learnings from Berlin, so they all know how to do it now. They know how successful it was. This was studied not just in Germany, but internationally. I hear about Japanese delegations that came there. Everybody came there. Not American ones, but everybody else. The entire state of Saxony had engaged in urban change. And 19 cities participated to it, and they basically looked out for the quality of life, not just for numbers. They looked out for how we actually live well in these cities. 2006 to 2013, it's Hamburg's turn in the National Building Exhibit. They basically wanted to explore how to combine growth and sustainability. What does a climate-friendly future for a metropolis look like? And by now, everybody knows about this. So many European countries are on board. There is large projects, not dedicated EBAs, but large experimental urban projects. Stockholm, Zagreb, that's the capital of Croatia, Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, Brno, second largest town in the Czech Republic, Bratislava, capital of Slovakia, Malmö, the city basically across the sound from Copenhagen and Munich, and many more. Large projects, unimaginable large projects for us. They are not rejected by the people there, they are embraced, because everybody knows this is a good thing. The country of France has allocated billions of dollars to reverse the damage of urban sprawl in more than 200 city centers around the entire country. That's underway right now. So they're all on board. In Denmark in 2017, there was an experimental cities conference that basically many countries from all over the world participated in. And just to reset your expectations of what experiments they're talking about, because when we hear experiments, we think of some massive megastructure that's like thousands of feet in the air and this, that, and the other thing. No, that wasn't the experiment that they were talking about. They talked, for instance, about this. This is a development in Trondheim, a city far north in Norway. It's cold there. And the experiment was that the city came up with a framework for a denser urban development, and they let 5 families build these houses by themselves. When have you heard something like that in America lately? How many permits would we need to get to do this? How many people processes do we need to go through? How many public hearings do we need to go through? I've lived in one of those. This is the kind of human experiment that we need. Now, keep going with the EBAs. In 2020, Basel in Switzerland, Basel is a city that is located between 3 countries, it's France, Germany, and Switzerland. They have an EBA to explore how to grow a region around international borders. The Netherlands has a coal mining region too, that's adjacent to the Ruhrgebiet, you know, in eastern Netherlands. They have their own EBA because they basically want to have a reversal of their economic fortune like they see over there in Germany. So it's happening right there, it completes next year. Heidelberg, University City, has an EBA 2 years later, where they will explore how a European city has to change to meet the requirements of tomorrow's knowledge society. Vienna has an EBA in 2022, and that is a highly expected EBA. Vienna has always been sort of like the capital worldwide for social housing. They have solved all housing problems. And they want to find ways to offer new, affordable, high-quality living space in a living city. They want to explore more social neighborhoods, new social qualities, new social responsibility. There is a museum-ready show that's traveling the world about their accomplishments. The closest that ever came to the US was in Vancouver, and an American magazine just to show you the framework through which, the lens through which we're looking. For America, they of course look for some high-rise somewhere. This is a 30-year-old building that they have long, sort of like dismissed in Europe. It's a housing project, but this is not the solution. But in an American magazine, we write about that because we think it has to be tall buildings that they're solving. They solve their housing through tall buildings. No, they don't. Instead, what they're building is they're building old-fashioned neighborhoods with modern buildings. I think the city of Vienna, in the course of this EBA, is building something like 60,000 apartments. And these apartments get built by labor that gets paid better than here, and you rent them for prices that is not even a third of what we pay. How does that happen? I'm not an expert in that, but somebody should look into that. So they do a lot of experiments. This is an experimental structure that is completely built out of wood. This is an experiment that is partially owner-financed. It's a concrete frame where you have modular components that get plugged in and make a whole building. A lot of the experiments relate to how these buildings come about, how they are financed, how they are designed. It isn't just like the process that we think of. It's like the people are building their own city, and the experiments relate to how to let them in, how to let them do that. 1 year later, there will be a small EBA in Germany, in a forested area, where they want to explore the interrelation between the built environment and the natural environment. And the biggest EBA expected is in 2027. Remember, in 1927 was the second EBA ever. That was in Stuttgart. Well, in 2027, on the 100-year anniversary, they have another EBA that has a lot of expectations. They've just started with that now. They basically want to find new answers to the question of how we live and work in a digitized, globalized world. What you see here is the new train station. The train station is underneath that. So the train station means the city gets a new park. The park is the roof for the train station, and this is one of the monitors that lets light in, so the train station is a park. That's what happens then. Now, how does that process work? Phase 1 of that process means initiation. You identify core issues and you basically establish a board of trustees. Now this board doesn't consist of developers. This board consists of sociologists, economists, anthropologists, planning specialists, architecture and design will be represented, historians, landscape architects. They create the aspirational framework of what you want to accomplish. And the goal of that is not quantity, let's build housing. They do that anyway. Let's build really great housing for new social neighborhoods, new social environments, new societies. Phase 3 then is where the money comes from. They identify properties that can participate. They usually make available public property for development by developers, but they also allow private property to participate because there's a lot of cachet associated with an EBA. If you have an EBA project, you want to be part of that because it makes your property so much more valuable. Of course, that can't usually happen on the existing urban design parameters, so they need to create new ones. The way they do this is through competitions, not through awarding it to some company that somebody knows, but it's a competition that gets adjudicated, and the winner basically executes this. And if the winner is sort of like young, like right out of college, then they get teamed up with an experienced firm, but they have the design direction. Then the individual property assignment is where the money comes in. This is where developers are basically given the properties to develop. They're not choosing the properties themselves, and they're not choosing the project. So there's deals being made, real estate deals, but that has money now flowing back into the city. And the design for the buildings is also done through competitions. The developers don't get to design their own buildings. The city basically holds competitions, they get adjudicated. The winner project will be built, and then they find a developer who wants to build this. And it sounds impossible to us, but it works really well. They're building like crazy over there. And the final year, then they hold usually events and analyze and celebrate the accomplishments of the EBA, what worked, what failed, what lessons can be learned, what general rules can be extrapolated. EBAs are so frequent now that you basically can go every year and go to a new one. So this rapid iteration happens on a very fast cycle now. They really improve very quickly these days. So summary, I think this is the key slide. We have to get out of that linear peer-reviewed process. We have to get into a process where we just try stuff. We have to get into faster iteration cycles. This is the model for the most successful American industry. I think we should use it. And I think we should look at the whole world, and I'm very happy that you said this, Megan, that we wanted to look at everywhere in the world, because I think that is the key. We can't just play in our own sandbox. We need to look outside of our sandbox for other people do. Take ideas wherever we find them. Let's be imitators for a while and rapidly catch up to the rest of the world, and then we can run ahead and lead again. And we need to do it with all our citizens and celebrate change, not sort of like sneak it through behind everybody's seats. And this is a whole bunch of links that I'm giving you. And I have a second part that will probably give you some more specific areas that you can dig in that relate to parking. I think we should probably do questions and answers at the end. Okay. Let me get going. So parking. We have known parking as a problem for a long time. As a matter of fact, we were warned early on. This is a slide from GE that warns us early on that will be a problem. Because they said, how can you do all these cars? You know, it's like they all fit in one bus and it takes way less space. This is from the 40s. And of course, I need to put a slide in that shows you the extent of our problem. This is from Curve from a couple of years ago. It represents the collected area of all parking spaces in LA County. 200 square miles. So Culver City has 5.14 square miles. This is 2 years old, but it's probably a little bigger. How many times can you fit the city of Culver City into this parking area? Math, carry the two. 40 times. We have 40 times the city of Culver City in parking spaces in Southern California. Actually, in LA County. 4 zeros. And of course, there used to be mechanical methods, you know, early on. I told you about the World's Fair in Chicago, 1893, and we had very early on, you know, highly technical methodologies, you know, to manage our cars and store them in sort of like an apparatus. This is like from the turn of the century. It's called a carousel machine. They're still very popular in Asia. When you go to Korea or to Japan, you just park in those. They're everywhere. A guy from Brooklyn who bought the 3, they were so successful they bought another 8. And basically he runs that there. But it's not our preferred method here. When we talk about automated parking or mechanical parking, we differentiate between first, second, and third generation here. And the first generation is basically stackers. You've seen them from New York City, you know, you were in New York City in the 80s. Or if you go to Blackwell, you know, you see some stackers. It's basically a machine that lifts the car up so another one can park underneath. They're called dependent access, which means that you can't get your own car out because you need to get the car that's in the way out. So usually you need valet people to do that, manage that for you, etc. It's heavy equipment, there's no app interaction. It's sort of like old-fashioned heavy industrial stuff. This is not used very much in Europe anymore, but people use it at their own houses. And I think this is actually a really good thing for us wanting to build ADUs if we actually have to accommodate stuff in cars. There's machinery that can manage that. It's not even that expensive. You can buy this stuff on eBay. Every country in the world makes it. I mean, you can literally go to Uzbekistan and there's a company that sells you that stuff. Literally. It's about $4,000 on eBay if you have a stacker. If you buy a more professional one, it costs you maybe $8,000. This is a project I was involved in San Francisco. It's a high-rise project. They also use stackers, and they take into account that they have a large group of valet people managing that. But typically, we talk about mechanical parking in terms of the second generation of that equipment, and that breaks into 2 categories: puzzles and rack and rail systems. They also exist since the 2000s. They're called independent access, which means you yourself can get your car in and out. You don't need necessarily an attendant to help you with that. Vehicles can be independently removed. The equipment is still heavy. There's a lot of steel involved. The systems can have logistic intelligence, and there's limited user interaction with apps. So a puzzle system is basically this. This is probably the most effective storage for residential buildings. You know, it moves the cars out of the way. You've got to place the sign. That's always your parking space. You drive there. Your space will always be available, but your car may not be stored there. There is hundreds of those installations up in San Francisco and the Bay Area. They're very popular. They're slowly coming down here. Our fire department travel up north, you can find lots of these. There's some companies that advertise for like self-made solutions here in LA. If you ever consider doing something like that, talk to me, because there are quite a few differences between them. Namely, do you walk between a car and a greasy chain or not? Stuff like that that usually you don't find out from the promotional material. You can double that up. So this is like you can maximize your parking space without building underground parking, without building multiple parking levels. I had my own firm for a while in Santa Barbara, and I was not beholden to ask anybody else's permission, and I had a young developer who was like all gang-ho for that. So we actually built the very first automated parking facility like that in a student dorm in Santa Barbara. The more sophisticated versions of that are sort of like these display towers that you see all over Europe for the smart cars. They're happening here too now. I actually drove out to Covina the other day, and there's a Carvana tower like that under construction. They're called single-point lift machines. Basically, they'll lift the car up and store it on a shelf for display. It's a very large version of that. In Germany, as the Volkswagen VW factory, they don't have any parking lots there. They store all their cars into these giant display towers. They look very pretty. They light them up at night. And this has been duplicated a couple of times worldwide. Burj in Dubai has some of that. If you watched Mission Impossible, I think maybe 1 or 2 shows ago, there was a massive scene in that. So it's a very popular system. There's a system in Italy that is based on that, but it's underground. If you drive into any northern European city, northern Italian city, you won't find a lot of parking lots there because there's no space for parking lots, but they still have cars. So they all sit in one of those silos. It always holds 187 cars. It's about 8 stories deep. They're almost everywhere. Now, they don't care whether there's a river next to you or not. It's actually a good excuse for us to always not build stuff when we say that it's water table. Nobody cares about the water table in many countries. If you scratch the dirt in Amsterdam, it fills with water. They built a subway. How did they do it? It's not really a problem to build in the water table. And of course, we have examples here. This is actually Wally's parking facility just over there. And the city of West Hollywood has an automatic rack and rail system. Now, here is what that looks like when it gets to be big. This is the second largest city in Denmark, city of Aarhus, and it's a 1,000-car garage. So here's how that works. The city is a pedestrian zone. Of course, you can't park anywhere in that zone. So if you drive into the city, you drive there, park your car, and then just walk across the street into the old town. It's a very seamless operation. You basically get your clean space, you drive in, you have an app, you get a code, you walk away, that's it, the car goes away. So no machines to interact with, no hassle really. She just basically gets a ticket like we do, and you walk away, and the car disappears. It's a rack and rail machine, the car goes below, and there's some like big grips grabbing it and moving it into parking spaces. You really need to watch the whole thing. But basically that's what it looks like. It's very common, a lot of cities have that. Now I did a comparison once for the university in Santa Barbara. I did a low-grade garage, that was a conventional garage compared with an automatic garage. And you can see how much less excavation you need for the automatic garage, because you don't necessarily need to have people walking through it. You don't need to do all this. You stack the cars very tightly. You save 40 to 60% of volume that you need to build. So in a cost comparison, every scenario with automatic parking was cheaper than building a normal low-grade garage, by quite a bit actually. And of course they didn't do it because nobody else has done it and nobody wants to be the first. But they're not the first, they're just the first here. This is a street in Munich. This facility just celebrated its 10th anniversary. It just celebrated in around 10 years. Parking is underneath the right of way, underneath the street. So this is the old neighborhood that I told you. We used to build in a closed urban context, smaller individual properties, and of course none of them has a parking garage. But they still want to have cars. So the street was clogged like crazy. It was nasty. Ever since they cleaned it up, they have pedestrian traffic coming back, there are restaurants, there is areas for kids to play, And the cars, basically, you drive into one of those single car garages, the car disappears underneath, and you have 284 cars underneath that street. This has gotten to be popular. This is not the only facility like that. Here is one in Copenhagen. Again, similar situation, residential buildings, traffic clogged streets, so they decided to build an underground facility like that. And it cleaned up the street space, and there's a couple of hundred cars underground. This was a plaza, again, that was full with cars. Now they built the garage automatic underneath, and they have sports facilities and stuff like that. But I think the most interesting technology that gives us the best promise of the future is the third generation, which we don't have at all here yet, and it only barely has begun in Europe, and that relates to the autonomous driving vehicles. There's a garage in Boston where Audi has a test project, where you just pull up to the front of the garage, you get out, and the car drives itself into the garage. And it does so more efficiently than you can, and it stores itself very compactly. And when you want it back, you tell it, I'm walking to the garage, the car sort of moves out, and by the time you get there, the car is there and you drive off. Now that's Audi. Not everybody can do that, but there are methods for other cars to also do that, and that's what these autonomous robots. This is an airport on many French airports. This is a parking facility at many French airports. You basically have these autonomous robots, they grab your car and they store it very efficiently. This exists, this is in use right now. This is Lyon, I think, and I think it exists in several other airports as well. They're sort of cute, they look a little like friendly robots. And of course, when he gets back and he drives the car out, and then the robots are happy ever after on the other side. There they are. Now, there is also a German method to that, which I sort of like a little bit more. So it's since the early 21st century, it's independent, like Lexus. Users can interact, you get an app, you get a logistic intelligence system can easily be expanded or dismantled because there's no heavy steel associated with it. It's basically just a software program that configures this. So you can reconfigure it really at a moment's notice. There's nothing to be demoed or reconstructed, or you just want to make it bigger, you just make it bigger. Tell the computer to make it bigger, get some more robots that work there. Now, I like the German robot better because it's faster and it sort of like moves in more interesting ways that I think gives you more flexibility. This was at a demo project at one of the construction shows in Germany. It's fast, it turns on a dime, and it's really something. So if you interact with it, of course, you see none of that. You just basically have your individual garage. You drop your car off. This is a facility at the Düsseldorf airport, an automatic valet parking facility. You go there, you basically get your code, and you get on your flight. 5-minute walk, you go to your gate, you fly off. So when you come back, you tell your app that you can arrive. You walk over to your car. It takes about 5 minutes for that car to work itself out. It'll be there waiting for you, and you drive off. So that's really it. It's very easy in terms of interaction. Now, behind the scenes, a lot of other stuff happens, of course. This is the Audi factory. Audi uses these robots to store all their cars. So if you get an Audi today, it doesn't have a lot of miles on it because it's basically moved around by robots on the factory. They have like 12 robots there working constantly to move the cars around. Previously they had people driving the cars around, now they have robots moving them around. And this is a lengthy video. The company is called Server. They basically make these robots that run in assembly halls. When you have a robot moving through an assembly line, they make those robots, so it was a very easy thing for them to build these automatic parking facilities. The robot measures your car. It configures itself to the size of your car. It can figure out very tightly how to store your car most efficiently, and sort of powerful shoehorns them all together. And this happens seamlessly. They run like 6 hours without charge. When they need to be charged, they find their own docking station. If one of the robots fails, there's always more robots around. Another robot pushes it out of the way and takes over. Sorry, we'll be quick. So out of that, we developed sort of like an adaptable garage scenario where you start out with a whole lot of parking, but if it turns out you don't need that much parking, you can convert it into other uses. You might have heard about that. So basically your building is a raw building for future urban construction. I'm going to go through these things quickly that shows you how this stuff works. Sorry. So here's a floor plan that plays out, you know, if you don't need the cars, then you just replace it with apartments or with creative workspaces. So quickly, what does this mean in multimodal cities? It means you build flexible parking capacity because we really don't know how many cars we need to store. The more transit and the more alternate mobility we need to provide, the less cars, the less demand for cars will be. So if we have built our garages in such a way that they can be converted into something else, you know, we don't really have any damage to that. You disassociate parking from individual buildings, you basically do parking districts, you partially utilize common areas in the right-of-way for smart automated solutions, and you also park private bicycles and little vehicles. Then you can do things like this. In Amsterdam, they're eliminating 11,000 urban parking spots simply by attrition, because nobody needs them anymore, people don't claim them anymore, so parking spaces just go away. Or you can do this study in San Francisco, what happens to our open space by the advent of better parking technologies and shared electric autonomous vehicles, you know, and the various stages are you're congested at the beginning, but you gain more and more open space, you know, the more mobilized and automated we get. And everybody has heard of SB50. I have taken a stab at what it would really mean if we built an urban node around the transit station. And this is it, you know, I basically have 7 parking garages to intercept traffic around them. I have 1 park and ride structure in the middle, holds about 10,000 cars. If this is 6 stories tall, there would be 50,000 apartments, 100,000 people living here, and a large park. There's a large park in the middle. If we do this, we have solved all housing problems for the entire region around the existing transit node. No high-rises, nothing, just nice, normal cities. Now, what do these blocks look like? This is a block from the Netherlands. Of course, everybody says, we are in America, we don't do that. Yes, we did. This is Brooklyn. Block looks very similar. And of course, areas like that are built, you know, this is in Copenhagen, this is in Malmö. In Oslo, they're still building it, you know, old London used to be that way, old Paris used to be that way. This is a building that's built as a Baugruppe, which is a self-financed model, has 7 apartments. It's much more efficient than any of our buildings. 4 people get together and basically want to finance that building. The city gives them a loan for that building. They build the building themselves. They sell the other 3 units. This is the innovation that I think will move us ahead, not giant powers by a giant multinational corporation. This is again Brooklyn. You know, we have examples for sort of like small missing middle buildings ourselves. This is Queens. We have it in Bydgoszcz a little bit, and we have the old historic district in Los Angeles, which is great urban fabric. And of course, we have little Tokyo again, which we can't build today, but which we should focus on recreating today. And we might even build a real version of that rather than just Caruso's. So at the end, this is what a node with SB50 could look like. Of course, that's not what they're talking about, unfortunately. They're talking about a giant structure, tall and dense and lots of parking garages. But I think actually in that kernel of SB50, redeveloping our city and our Southland around our existing train infrastructure, we can find another solution. And that's it. Thank you.
Question and answer, but you can, if you have questions, please feel free to contact us with the information on Eventbrite, and we can bring any questions to Gerhard, or you can grab one of my cards on the back table and email me, give me a call, let me know what your questions are. Thank you.
And I was remiss in not thanking our host, Wally Marks. I know he was here earlier. I don't know if he listened to the talk, but let's all thank our host, Wally Marks, for this.